Welcome to my most favorite phone call that we lead every single year. This one and Making Memories, Not Madness, which actually is still in this month. So December.
Yeah, we may do that one next time, huh? We got to make it before Christmas.
We got to make it before Christmas.
Well, it's great to be with you all. Welcome. It is at the time of this recording. What is it? It's like December 4th already. It's like already December.
Yep.
What's really happening?
I don't know. They say time flies when you're having fun. So
we must be having a bunch of fun because it has been cooking by as of late. Yeah, but anyway, whether you're here with us live, and we've got lots of people that are still joining. Thank you for joining us this evening and giving of your time. If you don't have an ink pen and a piece of paper,
now's the time to do that. Grab it.
Or a really efficient way to keep notes. I really want to encourage you to do that. Excuse me, this is not one of those calls that you just kind of listen to and that was awesome and then you move on, right? None of them really are, but I want to make sure that you take some notes this evening, especially on some of the questions that we're going to ask you to reflect on. There's a reason why this is one of our favorite calls that we teach in the year, and it's because it's so incredibly empowering and really sets us up. I mean, we're coming up on the end of the year and the beginning of a brand new one.
Right.
And although I am not at all about like New Year's resolutions or even necessarily goals per se that have to do with the fact that it's a new year coming in, I think it should be kind of a more of an evergreen ongoing process for us. I think that there still is something about the calendar when we're coming towards the end of a quarter, we're coming to the end of the year to reflect and then begin a little bit of planning. Mm-hmm. So we're not encouraging you tonight necessarily to start planning. We're going to have some homework questions for you for that. But we do want to encourage you to begin to vision and think about what it is you want.
So vision
for the upcoming year.
2024. Do you want more in 2024? I thought that was really a great way of
you create a little rhyme.
That was like, I want more in 2024, but it's not just wanting more.
You're so sexy.
It's okay. It's living into something greater and more. God created each one of us distinctly. He has a plan, a purpose for each one of us. And so we like to take this time of year to reflect back on where we were last year at this time, fast forward it to this year, this time, begin to think about what is it that we want to see happen in 2024. So again, I like to ask the question, God, what is it that you want for me? I like to start there kind of from a high level. So while you guys are grabbing your pens and papers, this is just free. As I come into the end of the year, I like to start asking God, what is it that you want for me in this upcoming year? And then another great question, it was a few years back, God began to say, what does he want from me? So it was this thought of like, Julie, I don't just want things for you. I want some things from you. And it wasn't a negative way. It was more of like he wanted to take some things that were fearful or doubtful or filled with concern or heaviness. And so there were some things that he wanted from me that he wanted me to give to him so that I could enter into all that he had for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So those are just a couple of free questions. But again, the idea is each one of us were designed for something. And so 2024, God says in his word that he knows the beginning of our days to the end of our days. And he's ordained every single step. Mm. And so what we're inviting you into is to begin to reflect, to ponder, to think about what it is that God has already ordered for you in 2024. So to lift the lid, right, to get into that mode of thinking, I got a couple questions for you.
Before you go there, can I comment on something that you said really quickly?
Yeah.
You said God knows all of our days from beginning to end. And I just wanted to pause on that because some of you are probably facing something right now that is a little bit of a challenge or a little bit unique, whether that be in your marriage relationship, whether it be with your kids and your parenting, or maybe it's financial or job a change or something of that nature. It could be whatever it is, and I just want to encourage you. It's encouraging to me, really, truly encouraging to me in my heart when I'm in those places of uncertainty or change or dealing with something that sucks. that I don't really want to be dealing with. To remind myself that God has seen this time, He's
Right.
seen your tomorrow as equally as He sees your yesterday. And I think sometimes it's easy to kind of lose sight of that. That He sees our today and our future the same way as He has seen all of the things in the past that have already happened. And it encourages me because I think it just somehow kind of reminds me He's got it all under control.
Yep.
And that I can trust Him the same way as I've been able to trust Him in the past.
Right.
I can trust Him with my current situation and my future. And it just, for me, somehow it just always seems to kind of strengthen my faith to allow myself to, as much as I can in my little pea brain, wrap my mind around that idea that He's actually seen my future as equally as He has seen the days that have already gone by, because He's not bound by time or space. And so I don't know, there's something about that that gives me some security.
Yeah, I love that thought, because it's really bringing to light to me that nothing takes God by surprise. And even the promise that He's whispered so long ago, He's already seen them in their full fulfillment. And so the invitation is to begin to think, to lift the lid, to begin to ponder what those days are. What is it that He's ordained for our life? So before we actually get into the lesson, here's 3 questions again, just to get our mind in that place. And that is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you put your hand to in 2024 if you knew it wouldn't fail? You couldn't fail. What would you do if you didn't have any limitations? What would you do if you had unlimited resources? And I have to tell you, that last one for me is the one that I think that God's inviting me into in this next year. There's so many things. He's given us the promise that He would begin a movement that radically restored His intent for family. And without any limitations, if I knew I couldn't fail, and especially if I had unlimited resources, what would I do? How would I think differently? What would I ask for differently from Him?
I love those thoughts, but maybe you're like me, at least a younger version of myself, and you're a little bit of a cynic, and you're like, yeah, but I do have limitations to my resources, and I might fail, and I do have limitations. I'm thinking of them right now as I think about what I would do if I didn't have any of those.
Well, I'm not saying I don't
things.
have any, but I'm gonna
No. But the thought, there's so much value in the thought, though, of, what would we do if we did have unlimited resources? What would we do if we didn't have limitations? What would we do if we knew we couldn't fail? And so for the cynic, what I would say to you is that I think that the reason we would ask these, and we would actually literally deeply ponder them, is because I think it was Emerson who said, you get the energy to do the thing when you decide, or you make up your mind that you're going to do the thing. So what does that really mean? It really means that when we set our sights on something, when we begin to use a faculty that only we're the only life form, in other words, animals and plants do not have imagination.
Right.
But when we're able to leverage imagination, why did God give us imagination? Why would He give us imagination versus, only instinct like He does with other animals and such? And I think it's because it's meant to be utilized. And I think when we consider what would we do if we had no limitations, and the questions that we've repeated several times now, is that it opens our mind to possibilities. And my life, I can tell you that what I have noticed, and you can comment back on this real quick before we go on with the rest of it, but like, I recognize opportunities more readily when I have fixed my idea on those. Right? Some of the things that we've asked for, or that we've believed for, or that we've just envisioned have been pretty audacious, very audacious, actually. And it is just amazing how many of those things have actually come to fruition already. And there's so many more, right?
Yep. Love it.
So that's why. It's because you recognize the opportunities and or the resources and the means, and sometimes they come in a completely different way than what you thought that they might. I think sometimes about things that we used to think that we needed to own, But now we don't
Mm.
necessarily own a place over on the other side of the state, but we have some really good, awesome friends that do. And it's an ocean view, and we're able to go over there every now and then, and they allow us to use it and rest and watch that sunset in the evening time. And so again, the reason you would ask is because it opens up your eyes to be able to recognize opportunities, because it has your reticular activator has a reason to be looking for those things.
All right. So with all of that, hopefully you have your pen and paper handy, because all of that was for free.
That's right.
First step, as we talk about vision for 2024, one of the most important things that we can do is actually begin to celebrate our accomplishments and our learnings from the past year.
Big time. Wouldn't it be a shame? And some of you have heard me say this before, and if you're current clients of ours, then I can assure you've heard me say it, because I've mentioned it the last couple of months to you on our coaching calls. And that is, wouldn't it be a shame to go into 2024 and not pause and think about 2022
23.
and 2023? Both, Julie.
Okay, 2 years.
And the reason is because I want you to rewind in your mind right now to this time last year, 2022. And what was it that you were struggling with? What was it that you were dealing with? What was it that what was your desperate prayers? 2022 in December. And then think progressively. I like to go month by month. I'll even pull up my calendar. You got somebody else. I'll even pull up my calendar and literally reflect on what I was doing. And then I'll pause for a little while, babe, and just think about, what was I struggling with? What was I wanting? What was I needing? What were my prayers? All those different kind of things. And if I do that, by the time I get through the year, I have such a grateful heart. I have such an incredibly grateful heart. It doesn't mean that all my problems have gone away and there's rainbows and butterflies everywhere. Some years there is, but it's not often that that's the case. Most of the time, though, it really puts me in a really, really great state of gratitude. And I like to write down the things, because what this does, folks, is it builds our faith to come into a vision exercise for 2024 now, right? When we review where we come from and what we accomplished, so often we don't take time to celebrate the progress. Doggone it. Take time to celebrate your progress this year. It's incredibly important. And as I said, it does wonders for building your faith and setting you up for success in the upcoming years as well. So by all means, take time to review. So if you're just now joining, because I'm saying this just because we had about four more couples that just now joined us. If you're just now joining us, one of the things we just talked about is very simply to review your last year. Think back to 2022 December and think about the things that you were struggling with, the things that you were worried about, the things you were praying about, all those different things, and then progressively work through the year. What's different now versus then, and then celebrate the progress, because it sets you up to, one, be very grateful. Two, it helps you get in the right mindset to actually believe for more for 2024.
All right, so I'm going to give you a couple questions that you can jot down.
Oh, this is what the pen and paper was for.
This is the pen and paper.
All
this
right,
is the opportunity that you can have a conversation with your spouse. And here's the first question. What did we accomplish? What was worthy of our time, and why? As you begin to have that conversation, we'll have a conversation. We'll go month to month. We'll pull out our calendar. We'll look at what we did. We'll look at the amount of people that we were able to interact with, the lives that were changed and transformed. We'll talk about, was that event worthy of our time, and why? Why was it impactful? Well, oftentimes what do we want to repeat? What did we do last year that we want to continue to do in this year? Who helped us grow? I like that question because it brings in the people from our lives that impacted us, that helped us to become better, to be better. And then one of our other favorite questions, that I know I'm going fast. So what did we accomplish? What was worthy of our time, and why? The second question you can ask is, what do we want to repeat? What do we want to do again this next year? What activities did we participate in And why was it worthy of our time? Those kind of conversations. And then I like to ask the question, who helped us grow?
Yeah.
Who helped us to become better versions of ourselves? Because those are the kind of people, or the people, that we want to be hanging out with. And then that final question is, I like to ask, what did we learn? And so for this time last year, man, when I look back, Greg, of all the things that we learned in this last year, one of the first things that I think really changed in me is in one time in my prayer time, God spoke very distinctly, just this one liner that went through my mind. And it was, let my peace set your pace. It was last year, this time, when God began to speak that in my spirit. Let my peace set your pace. And man, I lived into that in 2023. I embraced that. I tried to learn it. And now it's more of my go-to mechanism than it is the thing that I struggle with. The moment that I feel any anxiety, the moment I feel like I have to figure this out, or I have to make this happen, or my tendency of being a type A personality, make things happen, I slow down and I posture myself of letting God's peace set my pace. And I begin to say, tell me more. Tell me more about this, God. What is it that you want to do? And I let him cast the vision. So it's kind of that heaven to earth vision versus the earth to heaven vision. And then I also learned not to lie about my capacity. But those are just some of the lessons that I learned, that not only did I learn them, but I want to carry those lessons with. I don't want to have to relearn those lessons. I want to carry those lessons and the principles of them that help me to grow, that help me to enter into a different season of life where there wasn't anxiety, there wasn't fear, there wasn't doubt, because the moment there was an inkling of it, I learned how to stop and say, okay, am I doing something that is outside my capacity? Am I doing an earth to heaven vision? In other words, am I trying to make something happen? Or is it a heaven to earth that I know that God spoke it, so it's going to come to pass, and I just simply get to participate? It was a real exchange of letting his peace set my pace. What'd you learn?
Oh, I learned a lot, but I want to comment very quickly just on that, because that was one of the things, was let my peace set your pace. I think that, for those of you that have been around for a minute, we really struggled with this because our pace was truly unsustainable. We were running. Literally, there would be blocks where there 3 or 4 months back to back where we would literally be working 7 days a week. We were not honoring the Sabbath.
No, we learned to honor the Sabbath.
I mean, the Old Testament, they used to kill people for that,
Maybe they just died because they were like us.
Well, they
Anyway,
stoned them,
yeah,
though. I know, for real.
Yeah, right.
But so it's seriously, it's something that it's one of the commandments. We're supposed to do this. And so really not lying about our capacity and learning how, because that's the thing. We had the heart's desire.
Right.
But we really struggled with it, and we had to learn how. And what that looked like for us was we had to recognize that we were just poking too many things in the calendar, and we would try to hold some places open, but then if somebody needed something, we'd plug them in.
Right.
And then we had no margin whatsoever, which meant if there were any curveballs at all, there was no margin to handle them. We were on 7 days a week for 3 or 4 months at a time. And so that was a huge one, I think that the who helped us grow is one that sometimes people in general, when we're coaching them and stuff, consistently forget to ask, like, who is it that you need to be spending more time with? That's been said over and over again by lots and lots of thought leaders, including our friend John Maxwell, who said that that we are the sum of the 5 people that we hang out with the most. So who are the 5 people that you hang out the most? And when you identify who those 5 people are, and of course there's family, right? But I'm talking about, more so outside of family, right? Although they count, I'm not disqualifying them. I'm just saying, but who else are you choosing to spend your time with? And are those people, is their life what you want your life to look like?
Right.
Is their life what you want your future to be? Because if it's not, I beg of you to begin to think about who you can
Don't sneeze. Bless you.
There wasn't no holding that back. Anyway, I beg of you to consider who are the people that you want to be spending more time with. You're going to need to be intentional about this. And as you begin to reflect and then think forward into the year to come, I think that it would be a magnificent thing. It's been really cool for us to reflect over the people that God's put in our life and the difference of the caliber, if you will, of people over the years that he has us running with on a regular.
I love that, babe. All right. So the very first one again is celebrate your accomplishments and your learnings. Talk together through those questions that we asked you. What did you learn? Where did you spend your time? Who did you spend your time with? Why were those activities worthy of your time? And begin to just look at those things as you go into 2024.
And then
number two,
need to consider your future. You know, so often, as Julie and I were just expressing our former pace, we're doing much better at this now. We're still really busy. And to be honest with you, we reflect sometimes, and we think even of people that we've worked with over the years, other people we've collaborated with, and even employees that we've had over the years. And we're pretty certain that in truth, we probably get done more done in about 3 hours than what most people do in a couple of days. Not you guys, of course, but most people,
right?
You know, we really do, because we are highly efficient. And when we get down to business, and we knock some stuff out. But in all of that busyness of doing, you asked me earlier, what did I learn this year? One of the things that I relearned again, that I desperately needed to relearn because of the pace that we've ran the last few years, is the power of thought time. The power of thought time. You know, if every thought leader throughout time is correct, you guys have heard me say this, and you'll hear me say it a whole lot more. And the one thing that they agree about, and that is that we become what we think about. We don't spend enough time thinking, period, let alone reflective thinking about what are you thinking about? What am I thinking about? I know Julie has been in a great habit that she started probably, a couple of years ago? And she'll ask herself, and she'll even put notes sometimes and ask herself, what you thinking about? Not to me. She'll do that to me too, but she does it to herself. So maybe some of you all need to ask yourself, as you're envisioning in this upcoming year, you begin to take stock in your thoughts, and you say to yourself, self, what you thinking about? And it's if what you're thinking about is not drawing you closer to where you want to be, or if it's not drawing you up to who's called God's called you to be, or up to who you are, then you probably ought to, begin to dial those thoughts in. I want to encourage you, as you begin to envision, one, take time, not just tonight, to think about what you need to be thinking about, and creating some think space and envisioning, but create some time and schedule some think space. Now, can I just give about
you got 30 seconds?
I'll take a minute and a half. Anyway, I'll try to honor your 30 seconds, but really think in terms of when is a good time for me to do thinking. Now, when I do my thinking, it doesn't mean that I sit at a table with my eyes closed going, you know what I mean? If you're into that, knock yourself out. Okay. I'm not hating on you, and I'm not making fun of you. Okay. What I'm saying is that's not what works for me, but I take think time, and I'll get up a whiteboard, and I'll just start writing thoughts, or I'll go outside and work in the yard or something, but I'll be intentionally thinking in space that's open. And then I'll come in sometimes and make some additional notes, or I'll grab my phone and take some voice notes so that I can reflect. Yeah. All right, I'll let you take it from here.
All right. So with your pen and paper again, we've written down quite a bit, but I want to give you some lists of some other things to talk about together. So when you think about your future, it's not just thinking about, okay, I need to get this done in 2024, and I've got to get this accomplished. That's not what we're talking about.
Contraire. That's exactly right. Not at all.
It's kind of the opposite. It's more of, what do I want to see happen?
Right.
What do I want from my life? How can I welcome more of that? So as you begin to think about what you want for 2024, list everything. Don't hold anything back. So here's some questions to get you thinking. What do you want more of in 2024? For example, coming into 2023, I wanted more peace. I wanted more space. I wanted more thought time. I wanted to be able to feel contentment and joy and rest with you. I wanted to not live limited, so I just, again, it's kind of that, what do I want more of in 2024? Then begin to think about, what do you love? What do you love to do? What do you enjoy that brings you life? So when we think about more in 2024, it's not more busyness. It's not more activity. It's not more filling up the calendar.
Unless you're bored.
Actually, right. Maybe it's those things, but really it's, what do you enjoy that brings you life? What makes life worthwhile? So if you're taking notes, or again, this call is going to be recording, you could go back and look at it. But what makes life worthwhile? When you think of 2024, what would inspire you to wake up every single day full of life, to live it out with joy and peace? One of the questions that we often ask is, where can we make the greatest impact or the biggest difference?
Can I make a quick comment before
Sure.
you teach on? As you were talking there, it just reminded me that our life is the sum of our decisions. So we are, because we're a product of environment, a product of the people that we hang out with, right? So we talked about that, but we are also, this is probably going to poke somebody in the chest just a little bit, but if so, just know that I'm doing it in love. I really am. And you probably really need to hear it and ponder it deeply. And that is, you are where you are because you chose to be here. I know that for some of you, you're not at all where you want to be, where you think you deserve to be, or where you ought to be, and and so on and so forth. Trust me, I've been there. I know what it feels like. And it's almost offensive for someone to suggest or say something like this. But at the end of the day, if you want something different, you're darn well going to have to do something different. Can I just encourage you with that? And so if you hate your job, don't make excuses and defend your limitations. Those who've been through reboots with us have heard this, do not defend your limitations. If you're struggling financially, don't defend your limitations by making excuses. If your marriage relationship is stale or struggling, or a relationship with one of your children, or,
Right.
on and on and on. If you're discontent, can I please urge you, you chose that. Now, I know it doesn't feel that, and I'm not saying that life doesn't shoot us some curveballs and kind of mess us up, screw us up for a little while sometimes. It happens. I get it. Again, I'm not trying to be ornery with you, but what I'm trying to encourage you is that if you want more for 2024, you're darn well going to have to go out there and take it. I'm not talking about working your fingers to the bone, killing yourself, or anything like that. What I'm talking about is making a decision to begin the process of working towards something different in your life. I hope you're receiving that well. I hope those of you who need to hear that are receiving it the best. That if you make a decision that you want something, allow yourself to dream and envision beyond where you currently are. And if there's something in your life that sucks, figure out what's in your control. Figure out how it could be your fault. Because if it's your fault, to me, that feels good. I know I'm a little weird, but I'm just telling you, it feels good. Why? Because that means I can do something about it. I can make different choices. And when I have come to nose with myself in this piece, it has always been uncomfortable, because I've known immediately that I'm going to have to do some things that I haven't been doing, and I'm going to have to make some decisions and put some effort towards some things that I have not been making decisions about or putting effort towards. But when I do that and I get resolve, absolute resolve, this part of my life sucks and I'm not standing for it anymore, I'm going to make changes. Every single time changes have been made, and I've been able to enjoy the fruits of the changes that I made. So again, hopefully Nobody feels like I punched them too hard, but somebody, probably a few somebodies, really needed to hear that, because you've just been belly aching and talking about all the reasons why you can't and rehearsing them over and over again to yourself and other people. Everybody else is sick of it too. So dust yourself off, decide what it is that you do want, make it something that's actually worthy of you and your time and your effort, and then begin the process. It won't happen overnight. It will happen in a process. So go get you some.
Yeah, I like the idea, and going right along with that is, don't let what you don't know stop you from remembering what you do know. And don't let what you can't do stop you from remembering what you can. And
Had
so
that
when we
literally
get
in my
that,
side notes.
when we get that in our vision of what it is that we want, there's so many things that can say, oh, you can't do that, and you can't do this, and oh, you don't have this, and you don't have that, and oh, stop all of that thinking. It's like, okay, what do I know? Well, I know that this is what God promised me. I know this is what God's word said. I know that this is a desire of my heart. I know that we're in alignment with it. And so when you can land on what you do know, then you can move forward into it. And the same thing with, don't let what you can't do stop you from remembering what you can. Well, you may not be able to go run a marathon, but you could get up and go walk a mile. The idea is to do what you can do that'll move you closer to your goal.
Good stuff, chick.
So in that second part, as you're considering your future, two final things. Who's partnering with you? Who are you doing life with? That's a great question. That who do you want to be doing life with? What are their qualities and characteristics? And then how do you want to impact your family, your career, your calling? Just think about the different domains of your life, your faith, your family, your extended relationships, your career, your lifestyle rhythm. Maybe it's your finances or communication. What do you want to have different? Get a vision for that, and then think how you could actually begin to live into those desired outcomes. All right. Number 3, if you're taking notes, why do you want those things? Very simply, consider, we just gave you a whole list. And if you guys are talking, man, you could spend a couple hours just talking about what it is, who you want to be hanging with. So that third part is why. Why do you want those things?
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's okay. Why do you want those things? Go ahead.
So again, you're reflecting and you're envisioning, what do we want? And so to frame it up, if you were to fast forward to this time next year, and you were high-fiving, happy dancing, and chest bumping over the changes of what was different this year versus last year, if we're envisioning, right? So we're in December 2024.
What happened?
What are you celebrating, right? That becomes your vision, right? If things are different this time next year, what is it that you're celebrating? What are you proud of? What changes have you made? What incremental things have you done to lean into the process of change and actually having more in 2024? And I love that you asked and encouraged everybody to go to this next piece here. Once you spend a fair amount of time doing this, thinking about what you want, and what would make 2024 a great year. Mm-hmm. Again, breaking it down, hopefully into domains, your finances, your intimacy, your communication, your marriage, your extended family and relationships, your faith, for crying out loud, your career, your calling, and such. Okay. As you do that, once you get it all ironed out and you know what it is that you want, and you have a good, clear vision of that, I really want to encourage you to ask yourself, why is that what you want? Why is that what you want? You may feel like that this is just an unneeded added step. It's not. It's not.
You got to know why you want it.
You do, because that's where the horsepower is. That's the juice that's in your vision. That why is the driver. It is the gas in your gas tank. Propels you forward, right? The vision is part of it, but when you understand why that's your vision, why that's what you want, and you define it, it will give you clarity on your vision and help you to refine it even more so that it's fine-tuned. Is it easier to hit a blurry target or a clear target? It's a rhetorical question, silly. I didn't want you to answer it. I'm just saying, right? It's pretty obvious. And so the more clear and the more things that you can do to make that vision clear, then the easier it is
All right.
to march forward towards it. And it helps me to check my motives when I do it. And it just, again, when on the days when I don't feel like doing the things that I need to do, babe, that's what I come back to, is why was this my vision? And when you document these things and write them down, then you're able to come back and revisit that why. And it has many times caused me to jump up literally immediately and begin to do the things that I need to do to lean into the process of continuing to move forward. Because again, sometimes, listen to me, we get weary in the journey and we don't lean into the process. We think it's going to happen faster. It's almost always going to take longer and a little more effort than what you thought it was going to. Just that's for free. That's a little secret. So when it happens, don't let that catch you off guard. Just lean in and continue to move forward, but revisit not only the vision, but your why behind the vision.
All right. Number 4, if you're taking notes, number 4 is consider how you will protect your vision. In other words, what do you need to add to your life to make sure this time next year you've lived into that perfect vision for your life? You know, I recently had a friend of mine, we were talking, and they were talking about, what do you want your day to look like? And it was interesting because as they were asking me what I wanted my day to look like, we were mapping it all out. We were putting it up on this big board, and I started telling them, okay, we'll do this, and I need to do this between this time and this time. And midstream, as I was filling out what I wanted my day to look like, I caught myself and I said, that wasn't the question that was asked. The actual question was, what do I want my day to look like? And I was filling it up, jam packing it full, squishing everything, that 10 pound of crud in a 5-pound bag, trying to make everything fit. And instead I stopped myself and it's like, wait a minute, I don't want my day to look at all like that. I actually want quiet time. I actually want to have space to listen and hear God's voice. I want to be able to write and to create. Now, because of where we're at in life, this question, when I began to think, what do I want my ideal? What does it look like? I realized that I needed to protect my time in the mornings up until 10 a.m. It literally is my best time of day. And because we're content creators, because of what we do for a living, that space needed to be carved out. I needed to protect it. So rather than jam pack my schedule full, when you're thinking about protecting your vision, think about those big rocks. It's that old illustration where if you had a jar, you put the big rocks in first, and then you put in all the dirt. If you put the dirt in first, you're never going to cram those rocks into the jar. And so it's to put in the things that are the most vital, the things that are going to make the biggest difference, the thing that's going to protect the overall vision and direction that you want to go for 2024. Calendar those things out. Begin to set a plan in place for those things. Put them in your computer. We were just with some dear friends, and some folks were doing some different, they wanted to do this, they wanted to do that. I'm like, when are you going to do it? And we began to calendar it, because the moment that we did that, it began to take life.
Yes.
It actually had
We're putting it to action instead of a dream. And
it
the
was the
difference
first
between
physical evidence of their dream.
Right. And until you write it down, it is just a dream. And dreams are awesome, but there's more than that. Don't you want to take action to it? Right? Don't you want to see your dream? Don't you want to live your dream? Jot it down. As Julie said, it's the first physical manifestation, but the first physical evidence that what was once only in your imagination now actually exists, because you have notes and you can come back to it and gain life from it. Go ahead.
All right. So be intentional. Don't allow for excuses. And if you're taking steps, write this question, or if you're taking notes, write this question. What's the next logical step? What is the step that you could take that would give the greatest impact to that vision or dream that you guys
the next
have?
5 or 10 steps?
Maybe 5 or 10 steps out. Yeah.
Actually,
no, 1 step.
Truly. And I would encourage you to, you can think about what the next 5 steps are if you want to. But the reason that I said that, I was actually being facetious, is because what happens if you try to figure out all of the steps, listen to me, somebody needs to hear this. If we try to figure out all the steps, you're going to get to a place to where you get hung because you don't know what the next step is. And it will cause you to get hung up in what we call the how loop. And you just how am I going to do that? How? And you just repeat that over and over again. And so if you just isolate it to what's the one step that I need to take right now that aligns me closer to this vision, then you're relegated to taking one step, and you can just take the one step. As you take the one step, the next step will reveal itself. And by the way, if you try to figure out all the steps, it ain't going to be right anyway. How many times have you thought it was going to go such and such a way, and you're going to do it like this, and then you're going to do it like that? That's why we're not encouraging you to figure out all the steps. Figure out the next logical step, like Julie encouraged you. And what you'll do is, if you continually ask yourself, what's the next logical step that I can take? Then you're just taking one step at a time, which is all you can really take anyway, right? And then once you do that, you can cross that one off, and you can add what's the next logical step. And it just becomes progressive and not overwhelming. And you don't ever get hung up in the how loop, because as you take steps, that light shines one step further into your future, and you know what the next step is that you need to take.
You know, we were talking about coming into 2023, and I was saying we wanted peace. We wanted contentment. We wanted a sustainable rhythm. And so this question really helped. What do we need to do to position ourselves to experience that? What do we need to safeguard and manage for in order to experience that? Like, what is the most important thing we can do to safeguard that? And that's where we actually said we need to honor the Sabbath. The answers came quickly and more readily when we began to have a vision for what it was that we wanted. And then we simply asked, what do we need to do to protect that or to experience that? So if you're writing notes, those are a couple great questions to write down. The other great thing, and this is one thing that Greg helped me with tremendously, is he said, don't think about how do I get there? Get into that place of, I'm here, this is what I'm experiencing, and then simply to ask, how did I get here? And the entire, the outcomes, the effort that it took is so much easier when you can get into the space of vision. Like, we're content, we're in a place of peace, we're laughing, we're enjoying life. And then once you're in that space, well, how did we get here? Well, we honored the Sabbath. We got rid of some people that were bringing us down, that brought no life or value to our life. And we didn't add any value to their life. It was just
Right.
busy activity.
Right.
So we began to see the things we needed to safeguard for, as well as some of the things we needed to manage against. Want to add anything?
Well, I just want to clarify really quickly for some of you. I mean, look, we and many of our coaches that are actually on this call, and lots of people that are on this call have already completed a marriage reboot or a family reboot. And I want to encourage you, if you haven't done that yet, you may really want to consider getting with us and allowing us to get you scheduled with one of our coaches to do a reboot. We go deep into this process. But in any case, I want to let you know that this is the difference maker for vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vision is about envisioning. It's using the theater of your mind, as some have called it. It's going in your mind and feeling what your future feels like, the things that you want, the things that you desire. Who's in the picture? Who's not in the picture? Where are you? Really experience it in as much as you can in your mind, because I'm just telling you from personal experience, the difference in the quality of the answers to how do I get there versus envisioning it, experiencing it in your mind, and then asking, how did I get here? If you've never done this, I'm just telling you, it's
powerful.
It's extremely, extremely powerful. And I love that God wired us in such a way that he gave us these faculties to be able to truly co-create with him, and to be able to imagine things and then cause them to be. Right? Your marriage relationship, your family, your kids. Some of y'all were longing for companionship at one point, and now you have a companion. Are you stewarding that well, by the way? That was for free. Anyway, go ahead, love. Bring this home for us.
Number 5, and we're going to end with this and then open up the phone lines for your comments, questions, and your thoughts. But the 5th thing is to simply consider what you need to subtract from your life. We talk about adding things in. doing extra things that we hadn't done before in order to experience it. Like for me, if I wanted better health, I needed to add going to the gym, but I also needed to subtract all the French fries and the white bread. So the idea
That's a
is
very practical
it
example,
was
isn't
a
it?
very unfortunate practical example that I probably have to revisit from
Oh,
2023.
you're doing great.
No, but consider, what do you need to subtract from your life? So here's just a couple questions again for you to have conversation with. List the things that you want to remove or do less of. What were you busied with this last year that brought you no joy, no satisfaction? Sometimes I was finding myself doing a lot of things and I was just doing them because I've always done them. And it was monopolizing my time and stealing my creativity. And we had other people that's what they love to do. So I needed to delegate those things out to free me up to the things that I needed to do less of, to remove, so that I could do more of the things that I did love.
Yeah, you've been great, Julie, this year. You were a great coach for me, and not many people can coach me. I'm a difficult case. I really am. I'm very, very principled, so I know exactly why I do what I do. But then sometimes I just get caught up in my own head trash, and she's one of the few people that can actually break me of that. And one of the things that you reminded me of, babe, that I really appreciated is you said you have the authority.
Mhm.
You have the authority. She said basically to me what I said to y'all earlier about your life is what you chose. So if you want it to be different, make different choices. She just said it a little bit more nice than what I did. But she reminded me, you reminded me that I have the authority because I had convinced myself in a couple of different
You were
areas
trapped.
that
Yeah.
I was trapped and I really didn't have the authority. And as you helped me with that, and then we unified around those
Mhm.
areas, we've been able to make some changes. And it's not been perfect, but
Yeah.
we've been able to make some changes and then take accountability for those changes as
I
well.
love that.
So I appreciate that from you.
Yeah. So the idea is, what do you need to manage against? My tendency is I get really busy and I'm convinced that I can do more than what I actually can do and probably more than I should do. And so I needed to not lie about my capacity. But what do you need to manage against? What are the things that right now are maybe your go-tos? Maybe it's wasting too much time on social media. It could be that you're spending frivolously, and Amazon, maybe. Oops, did I say Amazon? Yeah, well, we'll just blurb that out. But maybe you're spending money in places that you ought to not be spending money in. Who do you need to remove from your calendar? There were some times, because we do care deeply for people, that we wanted their breakthrough a whole lot more than they wanted their breakthrough. And what we realized is every time we were expending our energy on that kind of a person, we were removing ourselves from being able to be with the very people that we could make an impact on. So,
Or that could make an impact
right.
to us or whatever.
Now,
And
don't
so-
take that out of context. We're not saying leave your spouse, because if your spouse is someone that maybe is difficult right now, then you need to fill your life up so that you have the capacity to be an influence on their life as well.
Mhm.
So who do you need to remove from your calendar? What hinders you? What sabotages you? Maybe it's a mindset that needs to be changed. I can't tell you how many times I came back this year and said, let his peace set my pace, until it became the new go-to. So with all of that, maybe there's some habits you want to stop. Don't just remove the habits, replace them with the things that will give you life, that will fill you up and move you closer again to that vision. Got anything else?
No,
All right.
we're I've got a hard stop tonight at 8 o'clock because I have another call.